Good evening, this is Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight from the BJP's big national executive meeting to Rahul Gandhi's campaign in Gujarat, the day has been packed with politics. As the economy becomes the key focus, the Prime Minister has just launched a new electricity scheme for the poor and set up an advisory council of key economists. Will winning 2019 depend on the economy? That's our big focus tonight. Well, the entire BJP leadership met today to brainstorm ahead of key assembly polls beginning with Gujarat, which is just a couple of months away. Interestingly, BJP chief Amit Shah used the national executive to criticize Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi over his remark on dynastic politics, saying that the BJP believed in the politics of performance while the Congress backed on the politics of appeasement and dynasty. The focus later shifted to the economy as the PM launched a scheme to provide electricity to all, including free power to the poor. He's also set up an economic advisory council. Sunetra Chaudhary joining us with more on that. Sunetra, first let's talk about this big scheme that the PM has just launched and where he's been speaking extensively. Very clearly, he's giving a push to his pro-poor image. He's trying to project himself as a sort of messiah for the poor. But who's going to pay for this scheme? How much is it going to cost?
Well, it is really interesting because while he was speaking at 4 to his party men and women, at that time itself, he indicated that he was going to announce this at 6:30. So it was all carefully timed, even though during the meeting that was happening, they didn't really discuss the economy as such and the talk of whether the poor and the masses, whether they're affected by the dwindling numbers of the economy and the GDP figures which the opposition has really been slamming the government with. So while the entire national executive focused on more feel-good things, what they had an edge over the opposition, which is on anti-corruption, it is interesting that it was all timed to coincide with the end of the national executive, where as soon as it ended, you had two announcements. One is the Saubhagya Yojana, which is an extension of a previous power program, and what they're hoping for is that it will have the same kind of political mileage. Remember what has been the most popular scheme as far as the government sees, which the NDA has brought in. It's been the Ujjwala Yojana, the one of getting LPG to each and every home. And as you're going in for the home run, the last 2 years of government, what they're looking at is another perhaps home run, and they're hoping that this one of getting electricity to every village will be the one. Of course, the opposition points out that it sounds a little familiar, that the getting power to every village is something that they talked about and weren't able to deliver, but the government makes a difference in that. So that is one key thing which the government is really pointing out, Nidhi.
Right. Well, as we were mentioning earlier, the PM also constituting this Economic Advisory Council headed by Bibek Debroy, of course, who's Niti Aayog chairman, and Surjit Bhalla, part-time member of this council, Ratan Roy, Ashima Goyal, Ratan Vatal. All of these are the constituents of this Economic Advisory Council, giving you a sense that perhaps the government realizes the seriousness of just what is happening with the economy right now. However, when Finance Minister Arun Jaitley was asked about that, this is what he told reporters.
If you look at broadly most of the macroeconomic data, the last 3.5 years have shown that it has been sounder than ever before. Except in the last quarter, there has been a little dip in the GDP, which I have already addressed, where also the services sector had actually improved in the period between April and June. But it was the manufacturing which has brought it down.
Meanwhile, Rahul Gandhi began the Congress's campaign in Gujarat today, attacking the Gujarat model of development. Significantly, he was also greeted on Twitter by Hardik Patel, the man who's been leading the anti-BJP Patidar agitation in the state.
Seeking divine blessings as his party hopes to end its losing streak in Gujarat. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi said a prayer at the Dwarkadish temple before heading out on a 3-day roadshow in the state, barely 3 months before assembly elections. After he was denied permission for an open jeep rally, first a luxury bus and an unlikely mode of transport for campaigning. With the slogan Yuva Rozgar Khedut Adhikar or Youth Employment and Farmers' Right, the Congress Vice President yet again tried to poke holes in the Gujarat growth story.
5-6 कंपनियां हैं, उनको जमीन मिलती है, उनको बिजली मिलती है, उनको पानी मिलता है। ये है गुजरात मॉडल। गुजरात में कांग्रेस पार्टी की सरकार आएगी तो मैं आपको बता देता हूं, किसानों की सरकार होगी, गरीब लोगों की सरकार होगी, युवाओं की सरकार होगी।
Significantly, the Congress chose the Saurashtra region to kick off their campaign. Saurashtra and Kutch account for 58 of the 182 assembly seats. In 2012 elections, despite Keshubhai Patel floating a separate party, the BJP won 35. The Congress has only 9 MLAs from the region.
This time, however, the Congress senses that it can capitalize on the Patidar anger and also the resentment amongst the farmers over the lopsided land policies of the Gujarat government.
And what could boost the party's confidence was this tweet by 24-year-old Hardik Patel, welcoming Rahul Gandhi to Gujarat. Hardik, who is leading a pro-reservation protest, has been drawing good crowds in Saurashtra for his rallies. But the BJP has downplayed Rahul Gandhi's roadshow.
सभी चाहते हैं कि माननीय राहुल गांधी जी जितने लंबे अरसे तक राजनीति करें वो हम सब के हित में है.
Congress believes that this is its best chance to improve its tally in the state. But with state unit plagued with dissension and multiple power centres, the Congress will need much more than roadshows. With Rohit Bhan in Dwarka, Rohit Wellington for NDTV.
Well, to take a look at those big political stories today, we have senior journalist Javed Ansari here in the studio with us. Professor Rakesh Sinha of the RSS is with us. Mr. Jaina and Vyas of the Gujarat BJP also joining us. And before we come to the rest of the panel, Javed Ansari, let's first talk about the BJP's national executive today and this big speech that the PM has just made on this power scheme. Clearly, the effort seems to be to push that pro-poor image because that's going to be critical in the run-up to 2019. Is it going to be enough, though?
The jury is still out. It's a good idea, but much will depend on the last mile implementation. But it's significant that throughout the 2-day meeting, not a word on the economy. There was significantly no discussion on the economy. Apparently, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy had sent in a request to Mr. Amit Shah saying that if there is a discussion, I'd like to speak. I don't know whether this reason alone or for some other reason, there was no discussion. And there's just one line in the political resolution about the economy. So you can gloss over things, you can launch populist schemes, but the fact of the matter is that it won't pay being in denial about the economy. This is in bad
that what
shape.
you think it is?
Yes, I think
they're glossing over it?
Yes, they are glossing over it. They are in denial over the economy, and that's why the Prime Minister is hoping that these populist schemes will paper over all the other concerns that are rising about joblessness, about agrarian distress, etc.
But Professor Sinha, don't you think that there should have at least been a threadbare discussion about what is happening to the economy, why the GDP has fallen? As Javed Ansari says, he believes it's being glossed over by not having a proper discussion on it.
Nidhi, there are two kinds of discussion. One is textbook discussion where you are discussing the reason for some fallout in GDP or something structural changes. Other discussion is that where masses participate. I find that for the first time in the economic policy there is a mass participation about the micro policy of the government. Because I am telling you, Nidhi, I am not supporting any cause of the government, but I find that for the first time core masses who are living in poverty, whether urban poverty, urban poor or the rural poor, they are being targeted. No, let me, Javed, I have not intervened, let me complete. They are being targeted, and the government's target is to reach to them. That's why you go to the poor people and you just survey about the Narendra Modi government. They don't know much about the GDP, but they would say that they are getting benefits. Because Rajiv Gandhi once said that out of 1 rupee, 12 paisa reaches to the poor. Now, for the first time, digitalization, I am giving credit to not only the government policy, also the technology.
So, you're saying it doesn't matter if the national executive doesn't discuss unemployment numbers, manufacturing is down, GDP is down, all of that is not relevant.
I'm not going to discuss these macro things. These are the political party to discuss. They
but should they not have?
They decide their agenda according to their own priorities. And I don't think that...
So economy is not a priority.
No, I don't... Look, Javed, it is a political party which has to decide their agenda of the national executive. What we have to discuss that whether the economy is... There are a lot of to do for the poor farmer, for those farmers who are committing suicide, for the landless laborer.
So you're saying it's more important, you're saying it's more important what they do vis-a-vis the poor and the farmers.
We have come out, we have liberated the country, that because country is in an objective manner, it is issuing the critical core issues of the country. They are being
But the question is, Gaurav Gogoi of the Congress, who joins us tonight from Guwahati. Gaurav, is the economy going to be the key issue as we head into 2019? Is this the issue that will make or break the next government?
I think economy is a very important issue because we are almost heading into a crisis with a 2% dip in our GDP from demonetization. Our exports down, our job creation is the lowest in the past 10 years. And we have this group, a large number of young people surging into the job market, frustrated that Prime Minister Modi's 2 crore jobs per year is a jumla. Definitely look at what is happening in the rural areas. Small businesses are struggling, farmers are struggling, entrepreneurs and SHGs. The entire bedrock of Indian economy is almost on the verge of being in ICU.
But Gaurav, how does the Congress react to the PM's big announcement on this free electricity scheme for the poor? In a sense, has that stumped you? Has that taken you by surprise that, you know, this is yet another thing that he's pulled out of his hat, which, you know, is targeting the poor and you know, in a sense undermines what the opposition is trying to do, which is to pitch itself as pro-poor?
Nidhi, this is not the first time that the Prime Minister has spoken about rural electrification. Prior to this scheme, there was the Deen Dayal Gramin Vidyutikaran, which was nothing but renaming the Rajiv Gandhi electrification scheme. So Government of India from 2006 has been focusing on rural electrification. But if you look at the performance record of the BJP, not a single election promise has been fulfilled. Neither Make in India, nor Skill India, nor Digital India, nor Smart City, nor Swachh Bharat. So the Prime Minister's and the BJP government's record on implementing its promises is a big zero. And that is the problem, that there is no implementation mechanism. The government
you're saying, Gaurav, that it ultimately, it has to go beyond an announcement. Tavleen Singh, I have another question though, that are you getting a sense that the government isn't willing to even accept that there is a problem with the economy today? You know, you've had Amit Shah talking about a technical glitch. Even today, Mr. Jaitley said, oh, the problem was, you know, just in that one quarter, the service sector was doing well and so on. The fact is that the GDP has been steadily declining now for several quarters. And, you know, we've shown graphs on how that is happening. It actually began even before demonetization and then kept going south after that. Do you think there's a problem that the BJP has right now in accepting that the economy is in trouble?
I think two things. One is, I was listening to Professor Rakesh Sinha talking about how the poor are so happy. Well, he should get out of Delhi and travel a little, and he might find that many of the schemes that are pro-poor are not working. I work with very poor people in the city of Bombay, and please believe me when I tell you that not one of those welfare schemes, they didn't come to them in Congress times, and nothing has changed. So, you know, these huge schemes that were started really don't reach the poor in the way that people think they do in party offices. The other thing is that I don't believe that they are unaware that the economy is in trouble, because otherwise there wouldn't have been this series of meetings in the past week where they're aware of it. I think they don't know what to do about it, and that's much more worrying.
Well, that's interesting. Jai Narayan Vyas, I mean, as somebody whose state is going into elections in just a couple of months, are you worried that this issue of the economy, unemployment, all of this could also weigh down, you know, weigh in as an issue in Gujarat, apart from the Patidar agitation and the other issues that have grappled the state?
See, maybe I am surprised that the kind of treatment given to this subject by my friends in Congress. When Dr. Manmohan Singh talked about the GST, its implementation, as an eminent economist that he is, he told that first 2 years, you are likely to see a dip in the growth rate of the GDP. And obviously, when there is a dip in the growth rate of the GDP, the attendant effects and the ancillary effects of these situations are bound to arise. So you have taken a decision which is a long way, 1999 till, the 18 states endorsed it, a long way. And someday the country had to go for a unified tax system in the wider interest of the whole economy. You have taken that decision. In fact, I think my friend in Congress should have congratulated BJP for having courage, despite their former Prime Minister saying this is likely to happen, braving that and not going for a populistic decision of stalling it, that no, we are not going to touch this.
Well, they didn't consult Dr. Manmohan Singh before doing that, no? And not that they would have listened to him.
No, there is no question of listening to Dr. Manmohan Singh, but it is you can't have double standards.
How is that a double standard?
You are listening to Manmohan Singh.
Manmohan Singh didn't know about demonetization.
When you are talking about the overall development, your standards are something else. This is a phenomena which is well accepted by the eminent economists, that when you are implementing this kind of a unified tax system, initially, any change is resisted, and larger is the system, larger are the layers of inefficiency. So there are bound to be some inefficiencies in play. There is going to be some turbulence, some pockets where you are going to find. Because of that only, I think.
But I think the problem isn't just the GST, Mr. Vyas. Tavleen saying the problem isn't just the GST, which is right now, as far as implementation is concerned, in a whole series of problems. But it's for instance, the unemployment numbers. You've had a new report that's come out just the other day talking about unemployment possibly hitting a 12-year low. And that ultimately, isn't it ultimately going to be about the jobs? Do you think that that's going to be the key issue that people are going to vote on in 2019? It's going to be the economy stupid, isn't it?
It was the economy in 2014. Narendra Modi won because people hoped that he would be able to solve economic problems that in the last 3 years of Congress really became grim. And they were really hoping that there would be a change in the implementation of economic schemes and programs. That hasn't happened. And yes, it's going to be jobs, because you go to any village in India and you sit, you see the unemployed youth sitting in the village square. But you talk to officials in Delhi and BJP spokespeople, and they have a totally different view. They say, we don't have figures. You don't need figures. You've just got to, you've traveled, you know what it's like. You go into any village in India and you see the unemployed youth sitting in the village square asking for jobs. So yes, it is the most important issue in the coming election.